Okay, P1-10, kind of depending on the version, falls at a cutoff on the page, so it was the end of the page and always kind of overlapped the part 1 and part 2 assignments for chapter 1, so now with I think 2014 and 2016 versions, it's now on the next page. So 1 through 10 is the assignment, so we'll stay with that. Looking at this part, we have lots of angles, lots of geometry, and the issue here is that we're going to start to infer relations that we may not. We haven't really encountered that up to this point, or I haven't noticed it as much, but as we build out this geometry, this, we work whichever way, clockwise, counterclockwise, that this line is going to want to be parallel or perpendicular or coincident to something that's over here. We're really going to have to pay attention to those relations. This one might be a good one. I'll give you the option if you want to do it as a contour and region. That would be a good strategy. I'm going to go ahead with the lines so that I can illustrate the relations. So opening up a sketch on the front plane, and the bottom left corner is where I'm going to put the origin, and I'm just going to start to sketch. And I don't know that that's going to be perpendicular. Right? We have our dimensions, we have our workaround, but starting right away, the assumption is that that's perpendicular, but it's probably not. So I'm going to drag a little away from that inference line, and then we'll go vertical. Feel confident in that one. And over a little ways, and then a little bit past. So the inference lines work both ways, trying to hit a location and also making sure that you're missing that location. So we'll come over a little ways, come down vertical, and then when I start dragging this one, well, that one picks up perpendicular. Notice this was highlighting in orange. There is my perpendicularity. If I come over a little bit more, there is my parallel. Right? So in certain cases that may be desirable, but probably not here. So I'm going to try to make sure that I miss both of those. And then we'll come back. And it really doesn't matter if I did these in segments and then dimensioned up through and connected. At some point, pieces of the geometry are going to try to tie into other existing pieces of geometry, and that's where we get into a little bit of trouble. All right, so for the line, now we're in that units conundrum. So let's come down to custom. I'd like to stay in the sketch, so I'm going to edit the document units. We're going to switch over to inch, pounds, and seconds, hit OK, and once again it left me inside of the sketch. So let's go ahead and apply our dimensions. 2 inch, and then I'm going to pick the line, and there was kind of a scale there and a zoom. You kind of saw the flicker. We'll go from, for the vertical, 2.46, and then the vertical 0.38, and our overall was 3.84, so we'll pick up the 2 object lines. And then the distance was 1/2 inch. And 1.25, and then 0.75. So we're crossing off all of those dimensions, kind of going through the steps. All right, and I could pick the line again, but keep in mind too that we can always come back over and go between a line and a point, and that will give me the 1.5 inches. And then in this case, the 1.5 inches. Alright, so got pretty close there. So let's go with the line and the point again, 0.5. And that should shift around just a little bit. Alright, so depending on the stack up, this line doesn't really have a dimension, so we're relying on the 4.75 to go from point to point. Alright, so make sure that that doesn't pick up a linear, that it is actually making a horizontal dimension for us, and then the 1.5. Okay, so being able to quickly identify those geometries, those objects, those lines, making decisions of points or lines or between lines, this is just now experimenting and figuring out what's going to work. And I just noticed that that dimension, I either didn't enter the value or missed the value, so we double click and we let it update. Alright, so the other thing of note here is that I am in the ISO standard. So when we did options previously, we didn't really pay attention to the document properties. But under document properties, if you prefer to see ANSI, we can set ANSI as our default, and that would be something we would want to consider in our template. So when we go create a part template, we would pick, and now when I hit OK, these values are going to go horizontal to the view, as opposed to vertical for verticals and horizontal for horizontals. So you can take your pick of standards, and then this one has a thickness of 0.6. And it'll be interesting to see if this is one of those modal settings that it's going to stay from session to session, or if it's going to revert back to the template. So let's go ahead and OK, and then we'll save, and give it, well, an interesting name. Okay, we'll try that.